your timeline cross with Jim Crockett Promotions? JCP was sold to Ted Turner November 2nd, 1988. What was which of course, as we know, led to
88 when I start. Yeah, I didn't work for Crockett Promotions. I only worked a couple of shots actually for Crockett Promotions because I was working for Georgia Championship Wrestling, and my dad worked for him a lot. And but I did go up there and do a couple shots for him because they had a referee named Sonny Fargo, and he would go to Tennessee to the Memphis territory and work with the Fargos, and he was like their crazy brother from the nut house that they'd bring in, to blow off things. And old Sonny Fargo, he did a really. You check out his gimmick in Tennessee. It was funny and fun to watch, man. I know watch Rough House Fargo. But anyway, well, he'd go there. They need somebody to fill in, and if I happened to be off in Georgia, which was very rare, they'd send me up there to fill in for him, and which was cool with me because my dad was working the territory, and I didn't get to see him a lot, so I'd get to spend 3 or 4 days with him and do a couple of shots and ship right back to Georgia or back to Atlanta. But that was really all I worked for Crockett's. When I started there, it was late '88, and Turner had already purchased it from the Crockett's. They were advisors, but they weren't signing the checks or anything. So it was WC. Yeah, it was by Turner when I started with it.
So did you spend any time around Jim or David or anybody?
A little bit around David, not much around Jim. Jim was the boss, and he tried to keep it that way. He only kind of rubbed elbows with the top guys. Yeah, David, I got along okay with David, but we did have a falling out one time, and there was, sometimes you have a hard falling out because I'm hard. I'm not a badass, but when I have an explosive anger, and sometimes I will say shit that it just don't get over. So, but him and my dad got along really well. But I can say that about 3 or 4 people. Him and my dad were like really, really tight, but they don't care a lot about me. Yeah, I'm a little different character than my dad, and I have an opinion sometimes that they're a way of being blunt as a freaking ball bat sometimes, and not giving a shit about this, the repercussions. Which is not a good quality, folks.
You you can go into it as deep or as shallow as you'd like, but what was y'all's clash? Was it a money thing? Was it a personality clash? What happened?
It was back in the day that you used to get a draw at night. It's for road cash money, and I hadn't been that long back on the road, and when you're on the road all the time, and you have I had to get my own credit card and started off with a little low amount. When you're always on the road living out of your suitcase, that amount is always maxed out,
Yeah.
And I needed some cash for hotel and stuff, and I was going to get it at the house. Well, he was responsible. He was the agent, and he was responsible for handling the cash, and then he didn't feel like doing that. So he decided he wasn't going to do kick to bring cash, F the boys. It's like, hey, wait a minute, it's part of our deal that we can get cash. It's our bringing cash. You're taking it out of our check at the end of the day, But I needed that cash for road money, and he didn't give a rat's ass. And I had an explosion, and we had, and it came to words, to a challenge, and, we never fought or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But
it was a thing.
It was there.
So you just didn't talk for a while, or we
didn't really talk a lot when that happened. We talked even less for that.
Sure. All right. Things happen. Things happen in a business. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, well, I felt like, how condescending can you be to not give a shit about the boys? We're out there every night, and you come down here. You're not out here every night. You're out here for just this one trip, and it was your job to do this. And I know that maybe you don't feel like it, or maybe you feel beneath it, or it's beneath you to do that, or whatever her excuse was. Doesn't hold any water with me, because I'm out here now with my maxed out freaking credit card, and I need cash to survive. and you don't, and there was, so I had to make calls to the office. Next thing you know, we were getting draws on that trip. Yeah. Because that was part of the company rule that you could get draws. And he just decided he wasn't going to do it, and wait a minute now, you don't own this shit anymore. You don't make decisions like that, so that's kind of what that was all about.
How much would your dad get recognized? Was it just at home or
Back in the day, yeah, well, it was different back then because it was all territories back then.
yeah.
And a lot, a whole lot. It was, I had to lie to so many kids because he was working in Atlanta, and that was, our apartment was 20 minutes from the friggin' building. People, even if he got away out and they didn't follow him home, hey, the assassin pulled up in Jody Hamilton's car. What the hell, dude? And it's back at Jody's house again. What's that?
Yeah, what's he doing over there?
Yeah, I used to lie to people and tell them because they made a lot of the boys that was friends with the sheriffs that worked their matches in the sheriff's department. They made some of the guys like special honorary deputy sheriffs. They weren't actual on payroll or nothing. It was just a symbolic thing. But Pop had one of the deals, that they hooked him up with, and I used to tell everybody that he was a deputy sheriff because he'd have gigs and sometimes bruises because he was always involved in pretty heavy angles usually, and as anybody pushed me on it too much, I said, hey, look, if you don't believe me, I'm just okay. I'll just go ask him. Go ask him. I ain't answering no more questions. If you got them, go ask him. Oh no.
Did you ever hear somebody ask your dad straight up? What he
No,
say?
hell no, man. The people was scared to death of people was terrified of my dad. But I had my football coaches were scared to death of my dad. But it was crazy, man.
Nobody asked.
I had a kid call one time. Pop was funny. He liked to mess with people. Sometimes when he'd be home, if the phone rang, he'd answer the phone. He'd go, "Hello," just really aggressive, And I forgot which one of my buddies called me, and Pop snatched that phone up, went, "Oh," him. My friend went, "Bing!" He dialed home right away. Well, and I got to school the next day. He went, "Man, I called your house last night, and your dad answered the phone." I'm like, "Well, shit, he lives there. I know he's out of town a lot, but he comes home every once in a while. Yeah, he can answer his phone. He paid for it. It's his phone."